because this is the first time that we have gone together live. So there's an option of go together live. Okay, now we're live, but it's a new link. I was explaining it's a new link. Robert just texts me and says, "You need help?" Our husbands are like, "Do you need help? What's wrong?"
Okay.
So that stinks because we gave everybody the link ahead of time and now it's not going to work. I think what it was that you requested to join me before I was on.
Oh,
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think that's what happened. So that's okay. Now we know. But we can give it a few minutes and see if anybody hops on. I know I had a lot of people saying, "Are you going to like record it or is it going to be available?" And yes, it should be. I hope that it's available on both our channels.
I think
That's the plan.
well, okay, you know the
Yeah.
practice one that we did yesterday? That's
Yeah.
the picture that Ricky sees on my channel on the live.
Great.
I know. I was like, "No, that's not the picture." I didn't even know it was live.
Let's delete that. I'm gonna ask Robert to delete the other one.
Let me see if Ricky is well, I mean, he's not watching it. Okay. Now I completely understand everyone's like, "Okay, waiting a minute, waiting a couple minutes, trying
Right.
trying to
Yeah.
out, is it right?"
Well, it does stink because we gave everybody links and
Did it
now it's the
really
wrong link.
right now? Like on Inst
What? We could post right now. Uh-oh. Are you still there? I
Yes.
just don't know how to post without like getting off of this.
Let's see, hold on.
My fear, like what happens?
You're like frozen. Well, I mean, you're frozen, but
Yeah,
not anymore. Now you're back.
not anymore. Yeah, I think I'll just be frozen while I go away for just so people can see. So I'll be frozen for a moment.
Okay. It lets me share it too. Should I just go ahead and share it? Okay, are you back?
Okay,
Okay.
can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so I just posted
Okay.
mine on Instagram, but it's not going to be the one on Facebook, but it'll be fine. So
Let me see if
we'll
I can.
give it a try, and we can always reschedule. Like we can always like just talk a little bit, and then we can do another one in another week. I think most people are headed back to school, if you will, between the next 2 to 4 weeks,
Yes.
which is why you and I decided to do this because both of us have had a lot of questions about curriculum. My number one question I get is about curriculum,
Me too.
which
It's
is
like, what should I be looking for
yeah,
and all that.
yeah, which is kind of funny because both of us are not like big heavy curriculum people. Like we follow curriculums, but we're not like we order everything from one company and like spend $600 and like follow it to the T. Like neither of us.
Yes,
So,
definitely. I skip so many things in my curriculum. So many.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's a suggested thing. Like, even like some curriculums will say this is just suggested. You don't have to follow it. So
Right. Yeah. So that's what kind of spurred this on was I had a few people ask me 3, that's a few, but that's enough where I was like, "Well, we can do this one time, or I can have 3 different phone calls," and that's when you're preparing to start a new school, it's the way you school. There's a lot going on. I actually spent the majority of today working on that, like, my free time was spent working on it, and so it's a little bit easier to streamline it, and it's more fun to do with a friend, so
Yeah.
I asked you if we could get on and talk about it. So maybe we'll do this one and then maybe we'll do another one in a couple weeks and we can kind of recap again. But um so I thought maybe we could explain both of us like when we started homeschooling and why, just like really quick, and
Yeah.
then what homeschool looks like for us. Um, okay, Robert did a pin on a message telling people that it's the wrong live. So hopefully, and we just had a couple people hop on. So hopefully it's okay. Our first live was a horrible fail. We tried that with our podcast and there was horrible, horrible feedback. And then we did it on a single one, and then all the babies started crying and we gave up. And the poor, like 3 or 4 people who got on, they were off, and
They're like,
we do not blame them. It was so bad. So this is our second attempt. We will get better at the live. I want to start doing lives just because I'm better at the live. There's no editing involved. So anyways, so I'll start with when we started homeschooling. So we started homeschooling like many people did in 2020. Our kids were in public school. I had a in what's called a neighborhood school. So it was just like a heavily involved parent program school with a lot of extracurricular activities, but it was a public school. And then I had a seventh grader, I have to remember for sure. Yeah, seventh grader, sixth grader who was in a what's called a magnet school. So we'd worked really, really hard to get him in this advanced excelled school that's really hard to get into. And so both the kids came home and started learning. And with the older one, I was just like floored at what they were not learning. It wasn't, right now I know a lot of people get concerned about like what kids are being taught in school. It wasn't as much that as much as it was like they're not learning American history. Oh my goodness,
in
I
6th.
was just really yeah,
Oh my goodness.
it
Oh,
was just crazy, like, what he didn't know, and I didn't realize it, my eyes hadn't really been open to that. I'd been in school myself the prior 2 years to that, and so I was so engulfed in midwifery school that I just was thinking they're teaching him, and so as I realized this and I started to investigate, I'm like, "This is really bad." And the way the school had it set up is he had to be on a computer from like 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and we couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't do anything. I mean, it was lockdown, but like we couldn't do anything. So the second grader, he was doing fine. That wasn't a big deal. His teacher was great. She lived in our neighborhood, and that was fine. But I quickly dove into, hey, experience. And I mean, he was homeschooled his whole life, but I was just impressed with how smart her kids were. And so I reached out to her and asked her what she did. And they did primarily a literature based approach to learning. And there was a woman that she follows that was holding a seminar like the next week. We were all on lockdown. I was like, okay, I'm going to take it. And that is what we used as our springboard. And we still do a heavily influenced literature based approach to learning. I would love for it to be even more of a literature based approach, but because my kids are so spaced and I now have one in high school, it's harder to do that like one classroom approach.
yeah.
But when we first started, the first year we did do that. And the majority of the things the kids did together, and I enjoyed that so very much. So if my kids were closer in age, that is the approach we would take. So we'll get into what we are doing with our kids this year, but that's how we got started. And that would be my desire would be to do a literature based approach to learning. So, what about you, Margarita?
I actually didn't know that. So,
Oh, look at that. You're learning something new.
so that's pretty neat. But we started, I would say, we didn't start in spring of 2020, but we did start for the following year because we did a lot of, I just kept them enrolled. I didn't know that you could just take your kids out.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what state. In Texas, you can. Yeah.
I didn't know how easy it was to just pull them either. If I would have known, I would have done that that spring. But it was just we were talking a lot. My husband and I we were talking about trying to figure out if we wanted to homeschool them because I didn't know anyone that homeschooled. I thought like everyone that homeschooled was weird. I'm like, this is
Well,
weird. But we decided to like give it a try, and my kids were pre-K and first grade, and we did have her in a pre-K program at a public school. And I very much thought they were going to go to public school. That's why we picked the area that we moved to Texas was because of their school.
oh,
That's literally the only reason we ended up
I
there.
didn't know that. So,
They're like, oh, they
yeah.
have great schools, so that's why we're going to go there. But
Yeah.
then changed once COVID happened, and we really liked the freedom that homeschool offers. And we decided to give it a try. And my kids were so young, they're still pretty young right now, but they were so young at the time that it was like, well, let's try it. We could always just put them back in public school if this fails. But we ended up falling in love with it and doing a lot of literature based approach as well. Um, and yeah, we kind of set our own schedule. We don't really follow the whole curriculum to a T, like we said earlier. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of my biggest thing with homeschooling is you have to do what's right for you. I just don't think there's one right way to do it. And I actually get a little frustrated and then sometimes overwhelmed when I start hearing people be really intense on their method or the questions like, what method are you? And as a new homeschooler, like the first year I was homeschooling, those kinds of things were intimidating to me because then you start to worry like, am I not doing something right or do I not know all the ways? Now I'm pretty confident in like the choices I make year by year. Like that might change, but I just kind of don't think it's anybody else's business to judge.
yeah,
And so, yeah, so both Margarita and I are a part of a co-op, which is kind of how we got to know each other. I mean, first she sat down in my office and became a client,
yeah,
pregnant. And then we realized she was going to be my son's science tutor at the co-op that was starting in 2 weeks. So that was kind of fun. And that's how we got to know each other. And at our co-op, people do all different kinds of learning styles. It's interesting. And I really love that. At our specific co-op, I personally haven't been previewed to people kind of saying like one way is a better way or not, you
yeah.
know? So,
They're very
yeah.
understanding and very, I don't know how to loving. I don't know if loving is the right word, but they are very encouraging. That's the word.
Yeah.
They're,
Yeah, I would agree. So, both of us are involved in what's called a homeschool cooperative. And for us, what that looks like is 1 day a week, our kids go and meet in person. Ours is set up much like a school day. So the kids enroll in classes, actually in spring, kind of like private school. So in springtime, they enroll in the classes that they're going to start in the fall. And every Wednesday, we go to a location and the kids take classes throughout the day. Now, some kids will go and just take electives, and other kids will go and take every single subject that they're going to take. So it's really a mix. Everybody comes for a different reason. So some kids come because they want to participate in the electives or the fine arts. For me, I participate in it because especially my older one, he loves the social aspect of it. He loves theater, and I like him to be in those classes for math and science, primarily science. So, oh, hi, Bradley. Bradley's not homeschooled. He's just hopping on to see what we have to say. I love it. Um, so that's why we do it. Why do you guys participate in the co-op?
So it's funny because we actually started participating in the co-op because I kept getting the question, how are your kids going to be socialized,
Yeah,
able to talk to anybody?
right.
So I'm like panicking and I'm like, I don't know how they're gonna be socialized. I haven't so I found this co-op and I was like, well, there you go. That checks off the box for our co-op. But the beginning, I've definitely evolved as a homeschooling mom because in the beginning it was all about the Brad wants to it was all about like making sure my kids had all the subjects, which now I'm like, wow, they were only in first grade and second grade. So, like, that was a little intense. So, at first, they were doing all their core subjects there, and it was pretty much a full day of school. But now, this year is actually our first year where we're only doing electives. We're only doing theater and art. So,
Yeah, so that's what we're doing for my 5th grade semester. Some of our electives are broken up by semester, whereas your core classes are the entire year, and he really only wanted to do electives, and so we're doing it in, but it's by semester, so I've been told he'll get 3 of his courses and the course, which is theater, and he's very involved in the theater program there. So, it does provide all of those things. I think some people take it for all different reasons. I mean, mine's a mix. We take it for a little bit of socialization. My 5th grader doesn't need it for socialization. He doesn't really want it for that. I just want him to be able to take electives, and so I encourage him in it. He'd probably be just fine not going to co-op. My older one would like it would not fly if we were not in co-op, So it's different for each of them.
and
So oh, go ahead.
yeah, I also love the fact that you get to um, open up the kids' like eyes to different electives, different activities, and all that. Because there's so many. I mean, just horseback riding, equestrian. Like
Right.
girls would have never had the opportunity to do that, and now they love horses. And my oldest wants to be a horse doctor, an equine doctor.
Oh,
Yes,
that's cool. I
so
didn't know that. I love that.
it's pretty cool that they have those options, to be exposed to that, and it gives parents also kind of if there's working parents, it gives them the choice to pick all their core subjects there, and they kind of have like a little I wouldn't say completely hands off, but it is hands off, um, on their side if they are working.
Yeah. So what you'll find is there's cooperatives, I mean, all over the United States. You kind of just have to ask around, join some local homeschool groups, or somebody asked if you pay for it out of your own pocket. Yes, we do. Ours is, my opinion, is very well priced comparatively. The classes are around $25 a month, and we just pay for what is it, 3 months? So
Yeah,
6 months total. 6 months total. So 3 months in the spring, 3 months in the fall. And then there's usually a supply fee of about the same money. And then we pay a one-time fee for the location that we use. That's about $100. So it's very manageable. I mean, nothing like private, like not even comparable to private school. So
I have heard ours is a little pricier than others. Because others are just like a one-time fee, but those the parents have to teach. Like
right.
all don't have to teach. So there is co-ops that are a lot more affordable. You only pay like $100 for the whole year,
Mhm.
but you are required to be there and teach. And for us, there's only a set amount. It's kind of models a school based like a school. Because only tutors, so those would be the teachers, and they're the only ones that teach. Like we're not required to.
Yeah. So that's what you'll find is, I mean, in our area, I think there's 4 or 5 co-ops, and we live in I mean, we're not a major city, right? So it's a most of our county is smaller towns, if you will, and we have several co-ops to choose from. When I was in Dallas, we actually joined a co-op for the fall, but didn't end up getting to meet because of COVID restrictions still. And so all the parents decided let's get together on Fridays and just do a nature day, which was amazing. That was a great like gateway for us. There's also wild and free groups that
Yeah,
meet up. And so if you're just looking for socializing your kids, especially if you have little ones, that's probably what I would do. Like if all my kids were 6 years old and younger, I had just all little ones, I would probably just do a wild and free group. And they usually are doing like nature oriented things. You have some co-ops that just do electives. They're very elective centered. You have some co-ops where you can actually drop your kids off and you can leave and come back. Ours is not that way until they're 15. You actually have to be there all day, or you get to be there all day, I'll say. Our campus is really beautiful, so it's okay, but, there's all different setups. So you can get on local homeschool groups on Facebook and find out. I see that all the time. People are asking like, "Hey, what co-ops are around me?" That's how I found out. I asked a few
that's
other
how
homeschool family. Yeah.
that I feel like that is the way if you are new to homeschooling and you want a community, like that's the number one thing I tell people. Get on your homeschool um like Facebook group because they'll know the requirements, the state requirements.
Yes.
Also know like the activities, all the free days for the zoo, the or cheap days
Mhm.
for homeschoolers. Um it's
Yep.
a huge resource to have.
Yeah. So that's what's cool. Like even with our cooperative group, all of the events on the outside for the most part are like the meetups and stuff, they're open to anybody who homeschools. And so we have a separate page that's like the families of what it's called fed is what ours is, and anybody can get on. And then from school year to school year they make a private Facebook group for like the actual specifics, for safety and all of that, but it's really easy to get involved. So yeah, I mean, you don't have to do a co-op. We have friends who homeschool that are not at all a part of a co-op. And then we have, of course, our co-op, and both of us do it similarly. So, anybody have questions about the co-op before we move on to kind of curriculum and how we set up our school year? No, I mean, we were pretty thorough. So, okay. So, curriculum. How do you choose your curriculum? It's a
Okay.
pretty broad question, but
In the beginning, I did a ton of huge searches. A ton. I didn't even know they sold curriculum before I started homeschooling. So I just watched a ton of like, those flip throughs that they have on YouTube.
oh yeah,
That's how I got started because I knew that I liked the idea of a big box curriculum, but the
yeah,
more I looked at the box curriculum, I'm like, well, we're not going to do that. I don't want to do
right.
that.
It's a lot of work. I think that's probably my biggest tip right off the bat. If somebody asks me about curriculum, or I've had clients come in and they're like so overwhelmed by homeschool, and my husband says that my Wi-Fi keeps dropping. I don't know how to fix that. He can come in and fix it for me. I'm so not tech savvy. So if I'm like trying to talk and then I see that, I'm like, like ADD. So back to what I was saying. So I will have families come in and the moms are so overwhelmed. And then I find out they're basically trying to do like traditional school, like public school, if you will, or private school, at home. I see some homeschool moms at the beginning of the year and they're like setting up my classroom and like all the kids have a desk with all of their things and um
That
you
was
know yeah,
that
which is fun. For sure. Like it gives you something to do and I think that's great if it works for you. Like we said earlier. But sorry, I need to take a drink. um
it's overwhelming. Like it does.
yes,
As
it's
that
overwhelming.
I even got like the posters to set up like in a traditional class.
Mhm.
Backstory: I went to um bachelor's degree to be a teacher. So I was like, I need to have all these cute posters everywhere. I need to
Right.
have United States map. Like, what kind of classroom is this without a map? But it gets overwhelming, very overwhelming.
Yeah, Heather commented that that happened to her, and so they're headed into, I guess, their second year. You pulled her halfway through, I think, Heather. Am I remembering that right? And I remember the conversation that we had when she was explaining to me like her first time. And so I'm just going to throw her out here cuz she's another homeschool mom. They use primarily a online curriculum, and so everything's online based, like the learning, there's not any textbooks, it's all online. And that's awesome. Like, that's a great opportunity for somebody, especially if you're first starting. And now this year, they're going to be coming to our co op, and her daughter's going to be taking some elective classes and classes that you can't get, with the online and get that socialization. So, there are definitely some easy jump starts. Her program is actually really inexpensive. It's called Achilles, and it's $25 a month. You can take up to 5 classes, maybe, if I remember right. And we're actually going to use it for 2 courses, for my fifth grader. We're going to give that a try. So, what's interesting is, like, Margarita, you said what you started with, and, I guess we'll get to what you've evolved to. But I think the biggest thing is that, like, get started, start small, and you are going to evolve, and that's totally totally normal. If you want something super simple where you're kind of buying everything from one location, my personal recommendation would probably be The Good and the Beautiful. I don't
Yeah,
know what you would say, Margarita.
I would same thing. I love The Good and the Beautiful, and it's just a graphical curriculum.
Yeah, you can grab it and go. Now, here's the thing. Everybody would say that to me. It's grab and go, grab and go. We did it last year for the first time. Or no, we did it 2 years ago for the first time for our science. It was not grab and go to me. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to prepare these things. Like, I have to be prepped ahead of time." My homeschooling style, because of my job and I have a toddler, is not where I sit with my kids for 3 work. It is not. They are primarily pay oh, this thing
Oh
said
no.
it keeps breaking up. I might have to go sit in my car. Um, I'm gonna sit in my car. So you talk for a minute,
Okay.
Margarita, while I do that because I hate that it's breaking up.
Okay. Rebecca, I know it's your first year and you're going to do amazing and have a lot of grace with yourself because as the years go, as you evolve into like a homeschooling family or homeschooling mom, you're going to figure out what works for you. I talked to, when I first started, the first year I started, I talked to this lady, we're not even friends, just reached out to her, the military with her. And she told me the hardest day is gonna be the day that all the school bus drivers get and then from everything's gonna be easy. It wasn't easy, but, um, you'll get it and you'll get the hang of it and you'll do what works for you.
Okay, I'm super curious. You guys are gonna have to give me feedback if I'm breaking up because I'm gonna hop off my Wi-Fi and just try to be on the internet. I live in the country. Well, so does Margarita, but she lives on a hill, so hers is
Oh, okay, well, Ricky just told me I'm breaking up too.
yeah. Can anybody tell us if you can hear me? Okay.
Okay, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I was ever breaking up with you though for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know, and Ricky texted me, he's like, "You're breaking up too." I'm like, so I just took me off Wi-Fi too.
Yeah, we'll give it a try. That stinks. We may have to go to like a local coffee shop next time. That's the one thing. We both are homesteaders, if you don't know, and we live out in the country a little bit. So internet is always a thing. That's always hard. Um, Yeah, so back to the grab and go. It was not grab and go for me because I felt like I had to do a lot of preparation still, and that was not something that I felt like, oh, Bradley says it's better now. Thanks. It wasn't something that I felt like I was able to keep up with. And so I did learn that from myself is like I have to know my bandwidth, like how much time am I going to be able to spend with each child on each subject each day, and then looking at the curriculum and deciding, okay, which things can I manage and what can I do. So now I kind of know what that is, and that's why some of the things we are going to do more of an online so that it gives me more bandwidth to help with things like for us, which is language arts. I like to be available to help with that quite a bit. I do like to do read alouds, and so that absolutely takes time when you're doing a read aloud. And so it allows me to kind of interrupt throughout the day of like sometimes they're doing self-paced or what is it, self-directed stuff, and then sometimes I'm doing it with him. Now, my high schooler pretty much does everything on his own. In fact, I only have him come out for the read aloud, and he's kind of like, "When is it? When can we do this?" Because he doesn't like that he's being interrupted. It's because he's like focused and does all of his work, which is great. That's his personality. But even my second child, like that will not be his personality in high school. So you also have to formulate your curriculum around your kid, or you'll go crazy, I think. So you have to choose what works best for you. But if you're overwhelmed by curriculum and you want to do a grab and go, I think Good and the Beautiful is the least overwhelming one. It's really pretty. It's really fun for the kids. It's fun for you. Like if you're doing it with them, you will learn a lot.
Yeah. I
So
love the beautiful, and I've never done their science, so I don't know what their science is like, but I love the fact that it even tells you, like, read to the
yes, it does. And it says it'll go back and say like, okay, for the teacher, like this is or the parent, I think it calls it the parent. Can you guys hear me? It broke up. Can somebody comment if they can hear me? Because Margarita's frozen. So
Can you hear me?
can you, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if I froze or you froze. It'll even say like, okay, Bradley,
Breaking up. Okay. Rebecca, yes, the good that's the one we're talking about right now. I just texted. uh,
the approach to learning
Okay.
and of digging to find some of the books, and we actually just chose to purchase some of the books, but a lot were at the library. And I also just oh, am I frozen again? Am I frozen now? Okay. I'm back on my Wi-Fi. We'll see. Just let me know if I'm cutting out, I guess. And if I frustrate people too much, I can hop off and you can finish. We'll have to brainstorm that. My husband will be happy to do that. He's all about trying to figure all those things out for me. Um, we just switched internet providers so bad. So, turning back the pages of time is great, and honestly, you can cover your literature and your U.S. history with just that, and it's like $10 in all library books. So that's really cool. And I like to do what's it called? Teachers pay teachers. Yeah, so teachers pay teachers are teachers who write curriculums, and a lot of them are unit studies, which a unit study is like basically a several week study covering one topic, and it uses all the subjects. So it's really fun, especially for younger kids. And so I would get on, like, say we were studying the Civil War, and I would find a teachers pay teachers curriculum and unit study, and I would download it, and I would just kind of pull things from it that I wanted to use, like to encompass in their science or maybe their handwriting, or just do little fun projects and things like that. So I really like that one. um yeah, yeah, it's cute, and it's I haven't done any for older kids yet. I haven't done it for my high schooler. But a lot of fun to use it. And we did like Little House on the Prairie, and we did a unit study for that. That was really fun, because there's vocabulary words and yeah, their history and all kinds of things that go into it. So, which is a lot of literature based approach to learning, like we talked about. So, um, I'll throw in here for us, we do not school year round. Some people will school year round. We don't do that. I say we, meaning my family doesn't do that. I do have them do reading and do some like catch up things in the summer. So we've been doing multiplication tables we've been working on, and handwriting, and a little bit of just like concept learning for literature, things like that. We just kind of work on through the summer. Otherwise, I'll go crazy. Like, I kind of need them to do stuff. My older one, not so much. I just assign him reading, and I have a book list that I work off of. But that's we follow the typical school year for us. Yeah. I'm trying to think what else. For me, so I know our school days are set up different. So I'll say that our school day is, I'm pretty strict that we start about 9 o'clock, and I change it up every day on like what's required. So sometimes it's like 2 days a week we may do history, and 2 days a week we may do science, and then every single day typically we do math and language arts. um, that's kind of how I have it set up. Just briefly saying that. Um, for my younger one. Now, for my high schooler, he's doing every subject every day. I mean, sometimes he'll double up so that he can have a day off. He kind of works at his own pace. But the kids are required for me to get their school done in the morning. And part of that is like I need them busy in the morning so that I can take care of the toddler, the homestead, and my work. And then I know in the afternoon everybody's kind of done. Also, my husband really struggled, and his siblings, after they graduated, because they were allowed to kind of work at their own schedule. And so, like, they could do math at 9 p.m. if they wanted to. But once they got into the real world, they really, really struggled with keeping a schedule. And so that was one thing that was important to me with the kids. Now, we're loose with it and flexible, but I pretty much like to start at 9. And then I had another homeschool mom, who's graduated all four of hers, tell me that they worked with a what's next type of model. And so every time they finished something, they would look and say, okay, what's next? So instead of it being like from 10:15 to 10:25, we're doing our handwriting, It was just, okay, now I'm finished with handwriting. What's next? And so that's essentially what we do as well. It's not timed out. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's just kind of an example again of like what works for you. I know Heather just commented that for Nicole, they do one subject a day, which I know she had told me that before, and that works really well for Nicole. And I just think that's really cool. And that's the beauty of homeschool is you can make it fit your child's learning, and what fits your schedule. So yeah, we pretty much do school from 9 to noon, for the one who's in the 5th grade. My older one, he goes probably 9 to 1, an additional hour because his math usually takes him longer because he's in algebra or now algebra 2. So, if anybody has questions about specific curriculums of what we have used, if we like something that you're looking at, if we've seen it before, if you want recommendations, like please leave it in the comment section after. I mean, you can do it now, or if you're watching this later, put it in the comment section and we are happy to respond to you on that. Yeah.
Um, but that'll be maybe like in 2, 3 weeks coming out.
Yeah. I know for me, like I have less questions, like even now to this day. My difficulties are not surrounded so much about the curriculum and what my kids are learning, but it's more about the flow of like how to do life when your kids are home all the time. And so that's something that I share a lot, like my content. I'm going to try to share more. I just started a Patreon that is live officially as of today. So I will post that. I know I need to send it to you. I'll post that. And right now, most everything that's on there is birth, and pregnancy related, but there is one thing on there that for the household, which is your weekly dinner meal plan. That's the way I do it. It's a sheet that you can print out to use and take to the grocery store. But a lot of the stuff that I struggle with is like flow. I'm just like, there's not enough time in the day. I want to be 3 people. And so I'm constantly tweaking things just to create more peace in our home, make it easier for everybody, not be frustrated. Because I want homeschooling to be enjoyable. And sometimes for me, it's not. I can't get enough done. I can't get what I need to get done and then make sure they're getting what they need. And it can be challenging. So I'm always refining that process
Yes, I think
constantly.
is huge because once you when I worked full time, the house didn't get nearly as messy or as
Right,
chaotic. And we do everything here. Like
right. All your meals. Yeah.
so that is definitely a part that you need to think about and definitely have a lot of grace, but also come up with a plan to tackle it. And I'm still struggling with that plan. Like, I don't know what that plan is. So if you know, please let
Yeah.
me know because it's hard.
Well, that's my plan. Like I'm gonna as so with Patreon, like if anyone's familiar with that, basically you become a member of somebody and you subscribe to their content. And so it's actual like curated content that's worth paying for over like just using the typical social media outlets. And so that's my goal is weekly as I put things up because that's what you're paying for. So it's $3 a month is what you pay for. You are able to then have these like lists or these guides or these educational things where you can have tools to help you. And so as I've learned things, I'm like, okay, I need to put this out there for people because there are certain things that are simple to me now, but were like game changers when I realized it, of just like the basic flow of things or tips or whatever it may be. Yeah. So I know it's hard. It's a work in progress. And I mean, that's why it is nice to find somewhat of a homeschool community, whether you have a co op or just a group, because you can ask questions and other moms have feedback for you. So, but, well, what do you think? Should we end this? We're at about 45 minutes and maybe we can do another one in another week or two.
I agree. Yeah, no,
Maybe
I think
we,
maybe one on the weekend. I don't let us know if the
yeah.
weekend better. Um, yeah.
Yeah. We did 8 p.m. because we thought, kiddos may be winding down or babies might be in bed. So it might be a little easier for a live. It's definitely always more fun when people have questions they can throw out and we can answer or just brainstorm together. But if you're watching this after the fact, definitely comment, ask questions, and we can still respond to you. Um, so, with that, for those of you who joined us, thanks for joining us. And maybe the next time we can talk a little bit more about flow, like the actual flow of the day and hurdles that we've come across
Yeah.
that interrupt that flow, like what you're talking about. I know on one of your YouTube videos, you were like, be prepared, you're going to eat a lot, or they're going to eat a lot of food or something. I was like, that's so true. Like, you're just not prepared for the amount of food that you have to have on hand when you're home all day, all the time.
I would like
So,
when we first started, I would tell the girls, I'm like, you guys didn't eat this much at school. Why are you so hungry now? Like,
I know. It's so different. That and just things like brain breaks, having to schedule in breaks for them to get outside or to walk around, because they're not like switching classes. They're not taking bathroom breaks. They don't have PE. So it's quite different depending on your flow. Like you have to factor those things in. You can't just like set them at a desk and let them go for 4 hours. That won't work. That will
well,
not work.
well,
So
even
yeah, it does not work. It won't work for you. So,
yeah.
yeah. So maybe the next one on homeschooling live, we will cover that.
Yes.
So
Oh,
I'm sorry that. Oh yeah, what?
I'll start thinking about that, like what we do when there's interruptions, when there's meltdowns, when there,
Yeah,
yes, because it happens a lot,
yeah,
and not just with the
it does.
baby, like everyone, like my meltdown, the girls' meltdown, the baby.
That's
So
right. That's so true. That's so true. Well, I apologize for the service interruption. I'm going to brainstorm with the tech guru inside and see how we can figure that out for next time. And now we know how to go live together, so the link will work next time. So thank you all for being our
you.
guinea pigs. Yeah. All right. Well, until next time, you guys all have a good night. Happy
Bye.
homeschooling.
Yes.